Hey guys, so in this debate, or not debate, but discussion between deontology versus utilitarianism, I would find myself leaning towards deontology, even though after reading and looking at the different videos and reading the discussion page, I can clearly see both the faults of both systems, but I sort of agree with Kant that there must be punishment first. There must be a clear the criminal when a criminal commits a crime, punishment is absolutely a aspect that needs to be looked at when solving in order to solve the situation or to bring the situation back to equilibrium. I think the criminal should be punished, rightfully so, for his actions. And but that doesn't necessarily mean that Kant's idea. I agree on retribution. That's the sort of philosophical principle that I go to, and that's mainly because one of the problems of Mills's consequentialism or utilitarianism is the fact that the whole purpose of deterrence is to avoid future crimes. But a situation that I realized that when reading the examples was that you can just arrest someone for a crime they didn't commit, and that would equally serve as a deterrence from turns to committing a crime as arresting the actual perpetrator. So I definitely would not want to live in society in which that's the case. I wouldn't want to be a scapegoat or just to use as an example. But but Kant's idea of pure retribution isn't always necessarily good because it necessarily doesn't mean that people won't commit crimes, or it doesn't help with rehabilitation, bringing people back into society. So I would say that, but you could make the argument that it acts as deterrence, because if people commit like a crime, if people commit crimes that and they're punished rightfully so, then they're going to they'll be less thoughtful of they would be less willing to do it again. But on the other hand, in Mill's utilitarianism, you can make the argument that if you can say someone steals something and say something, you actually give a higher punishment to them than you would in a deontologist would give them, so in order to deter future crimes. And some may or may not agree with that, but it depends on which type of person. Like I, for example, for some crimes, and this sort of relates to the nonviolent drug abuse, drug offenders. You would The government has laws in place that basically severely punish people who use drugs, even though you a deontologist would say that it's unjust because it's not, it's too overbearing. But a consequentialist or utilitarian would see that as a benefit because it deters people from using those drugs in the first place to committing that crime. And I would lean more to deontologists. I feel as though that just punishing people for the pure sake of making other or forcing others to not commit the same crime is unjust. And please excuse the noise. But like I was saying, I would not see that as a good moral stance to base punishment on. And to the Dirt Riders, the 12 o'clock gang. After watching the video and listening to the podcast, I understand like the police's side and people who are watching, and how it's sort of disruptive to the traffic flow. It's dangerous to themselves and to others, but at the same time, it's sort of this. The people that they interviewed mentioned how the system itself, like it's an outlet for the depression caused by the system, and it's as this is sort of a utilitarian argument. in which it says that it's more on focus on rehabilitation and restitution and rehabilitation and deterrence, in which that these people have, obviously it's the fault of society, or it's due to faulty conditioning and environment to which that they themselves um, they themselves cannot help but to ride dirt bikes, because that they live in such a terrible environment, and therefore like rehabilitation would be very good for them, or just a betterment of their environment themselves would be very beneficial to them. But a deontologist would say to throw them in jail for time being because of the danger that they pose to people around them. And I would lean more on that situation, particular situation, on the utilitarian side, or as to try to find another outlet for these people, for these boys, these men, to release their stress or energy in a positive, productive manner, instead of just throwing them in a slammer. And so that's basically what I have. Just some of my points again. I'm leaning towards Deontologist, but I understand both sides and I understand the benefits of both of them. But Deontology seems more, I don't know, appealing to what I personally believe in crime and punishment. And yeah, thank you.